or if you come across as somebody who's sort of shy or nervous or stressed about what your interview is going to hold, all that is very, very easily sensible by the interviewer or the hiring manager, right? They can easily sense the fact that you are nervous, because people will be jittery, people won't, like, they'll just shake hands, and when you shake hands, if your hands or your fists are very, very cold, that's also a sign of like you're very, very nervous about the whole thing. So those things are your number one impact makers, wherein, like, because see, yes, they have read through your resume and you've obviously done the job of clearing profile wise. So the next is really up to you. And to be honest, from freshers, what the most common sort of question or excuse that people give is, oh, they didn't hire me because I don't have any experience. They were looking for experienced people. But I think that's a very, very convenient excuse that, just freshers or people who are looking for their first job sort of say. But I don't think that's the case at all, because the fact that you've been shortlisted, your profile wise or resume wise itself is clear that they are not looking for an experienced person, right? If
Very
they
true,
were,
very
they
true.
wouldn't even call you for an interview. So now the
Yep.
fact that your resume or your biodata was cleared itself is proof that you're fit for the job profile wise. And the rest is now up to you. How you convince them and how they are convinced by you to do the job. And that's where all the trick lies. So yeah, so I think your first impression is really, really important. In this case, the very, very basics of how you dress, how you appear. And when you start talking, are you looking right at them, or are you looking at your file that you've brought, or are you looking at the floor, or, and, things like, it's very, very important, because there can be external factors that's determining this, right? You get into a room and the room might be extremely cold. And so that makes you very uneasy. So you should have the confidence to tell them, hey, listen, like, I think the AC is like a little too this thing. Can you please reduce the temperature, because I'm a little uncomfortable. Just say that, we have to do whatever they want us to do. Like, but that's
Yeah.
not the case. Make yourself feel really comfortable, because you have to see this as your only chance. So you have to go there and, all these tiny things, if it will impact what you're saying or doing, make sure it is suited for you. So if you want the room to be warmer because you can't take the cold, make sure you tell them, saying that I can't. I mean, I think I'm a little uncomfortable with the temperature. Can you like reduce or increase it? And that will immediately give an impression to the interview, saying that, okay, this guy seems to be a little confident, because most people, sometimes people do these kind of things on purpose to see
Yeah.
if you have the confidence to stand up against them, or do you see yourself as being this whole inferior person who is not supposed to do something like that. So yeah, so make sure that, one, you have to be really, really comfortable, one. Two, be confident. And three, I think, which is the most important, is turn up for an interview only if you want the job. Do not be like, okay, I have 10 interviews. I'll just go do something and see if something will come up for me in turn. Never ever do that. So if you're not interested in the job, do not show up for the interview. If you are interested, do everything you can to get that job, and please them and show them that you are the best fit for that particular role. It's very important, guys. Like, I know a lot of people who will be like, I've applied here also, here also, here also. Let me see. I'll just give like my 50% chance at everything. But maybe one will click, one will not click. And trust me, the interviewers or the hiring managers are very, very smart in knowing that you are half-hearted while attending the interviews. It's very, very important for you to attend interviews only if you are interested, and you have to come across as the person who is telling them that I am the best for this particular role. If not, do not attend the interview.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be my basics.
Okay. All right. So what are the don'ts that we must practice for an interview? Like, a basic question which can pop up is like, what is your weakness? Because
Yeah,
yeah, can you just list out your weakness or areas that has to
sure.
be improved? The
Yeah,
most
so that is also
commonly,
a very,
yeah.
very common interest for the interviewers or the hiring managers. So basically, when they ask you about your strengths and weaknesses, it's something that most people will ask. And what you need to know is what the interviewer is looking for. So the interviewer, one thing we have to always remember is the interviewer or the hiring managers is not really concerned about what you want out of the company. What they're concerned about is what you are in line with what they want for the company. Okay, so you have to always remember that they come first. Your interest is not of so much concern for them. They are only looking for a match that is open for them. Okay, that is all that they are worried. If you can contribute to their revenue, if you can contribute to their success, that's all that they are worried about. If you feel you will grow out of the company, if you feel you will make enough money out of the company, is not their concern at all. It never will be. Okay, so you must remember that they have thousands of employees, and your priority or your what you want out of it is not going to be key priority for them.
Okay.
So when they ask you about your weaknesses, what number one what you have to do is you have to always pick a safe weakness. Okay, meaning like for example, if you're doing a sales job or if you're applying for a sales job or a finance job, and you tell them that my weakness is actually I'm not really great at Excel, or like with numbers I'm very slow, that is an immediate disqualification for the job, right? Because you're applying for a job that requires you to work with a lot of numbers. So what you need to do is, one, you've got to prepare for these kind of questions, and on that spot, because if you don't prepare in that very moment, you're going to be telling the absolute truth, which is going to go against you from the point of getting the job. So what is important is you need to pick a safe sort of weakness that doesn't disqualify you from the job, but at the same time, you need to give them a plan of action for it. Like you need to say, so for example, if I'm going back to the same example that I gave in terms of finance, and you tell them that, so what you should do is your weakness should in that case can be something like, I'm a little, nervous when it comes to presenting to a huge crowd. Okay, so that's not a very bad weakness to have for somebody who's looking to apply for a finance job or a coding job or something like that, because, that is not the main key skill that is required for that particular job. So what you do is you tell them that this is your weakness. And what is more important than that is tell them what you're doing about it. So you need to tell them that I know this is like, it's a weak point for me, but what I've done over these years is that when I was in college, what I do is I make it a point to sort of present to my close group of friends who, so I can build my confidence in doing that and then slowly increase. So I would first present to my first closest 5 friends. And then I would tell them to bring their best friends so that the crowd will become 10 friends. And that's how I'm working on building my confidence. And so what the interviewer needs to know is that it's very, you're aware of your weakness and you're working about it. And not just be like, oh, this is my weakness, so you can deal with it. So if you give that kind of tone, the interviewers, because for sure there is going to be a lot of times in your work, once you do get the job, that you will be put in very, very uneasy situations, right? So the interviewer is, what they're looking for is if you're okay to accept that and work on it.
Yep.
Which is why it's very, very important, one, to pick a safe weakness, two, to tell them that you have a plan of action and it's something you're already working on. Like you're part of, say, groups that will help you, or you have a mentor who's really good at this thing that is your weakness, and that person is coaching you and things like that. It's very important to come with an action plan for them so that they know that, you're not shy about, working on your weakness. Because a lot of us, what we do is we have a weakness, and what we try and do is completely avoid everything that can, highlight your weakness. It's a very common human trait, right? We run away from something that we're not comfortable with doing. It's so what the interviewer is looking for is, are you also a person like that, or are you somebody who can work or willing to work on your weakness? You're committed to becoming a better person is what is, and never ever say you have no weaknesses, because that is just impossible.
That's
There
true.
is no person in this world who doesn't have a weakness or a vulnerability in some way or form. So if you say something like that, then it's a strict disqualification from that. Like there is no way, because then they can just really grill you on that. And then what they will then do is like test you till the point that you are so like jittery, and then your weaknesses will actually come out, and then it will just look like an absolute lie. So that's something you don't want.
All right, perfect. Gayatri, one last question from my side, then I will open the floor for the question and answer session. So before that, I request the
Sure.
participants to comment your questions in the chat box so that I can shoot it to Gayatri. So please comment your questions, if any, in the comment box. So last question from my side is Gayatri. When we were applying for interviews or like placements, we used to have a common format of making a CV. All right, so
Yep.
it's basically what we did is that initially what we did in a piece of paper, we wrote it in our hands and all those things. But later on the very next day of interview, we actually
Yeah.
used
Had to
Microsoft
submit
Word. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Microsoft Word, that's what we used. But these
Yep.
days, as days pass in the modern times, these guys, I mean, the students have more access to, a good number of applications. For example, like
Sure.
Canva. Canva is like a
Yep.
number one in preparing for CVs and all. So, how do you rate or how do you compare those kind of things? Because is it good if we stick on to Canva, or do we go back to the old kind of word format kind of thing? Which one is more appealing?
So I think my stance would be it's not really about what app or what platform you use. It's
Hmm.
obviously about the content. And also, this is a very tricky question because you don't know what kind of interviewer you're going to get, right? Or how your
Yeah,
hiring manager is going to see your CV. So
exactly.
some people hate long CVs. Some people hate CVs that run over one page. What they want is, or them where they are at, or their mindset is that they get hundreds of CVs and they don't really have the time to read each CV, which is 4 to 5 pages long, right? So there are
Yeah.
interviewers who like very very crisp CVs, which is just about a page. They don't want to know your personal information. They don't want to know your hobbies. They don't want to know if you're married. They don't want to know anything. They are just worried about the job. And
Hmm.
of course, there are other interviewers who would like a detailed description of like what you've done in your college, what are the projects that you worked on, what are the social work that you've committed to, and things like that. So what I would say is be somewhere in the middle, so you don't disappoint either this set of interviewers or that set of interviewers. So have, I would say, keep it crisp in the sense that so that's when like your CV is just really like opening the gates, right? Otherwise, it's all about how you talk to them. Yes, of
Hmm.
course, you have to have an appealing CV in terms of, and today there's so many professionals who really just focus only on making CVs for you. Like there are people who will tell you what kind of CV to make to that will suit both for the Indian market as well as the international market. There are people who
Hmm.
cater only to the Indian market. There are people who cater only to the international market. So
Hmm.
I think you have to do considerable research, and this just cannot be a last minute thing. You can't just
Hmm.
prepare a CV today for an interview tomorrow. And another thing is there is a set of interviewers who will completely grill you on your CV. Like every single sentence you write on your CV, they will question you on it. And then
Yeah.
there is another set of interviewers who will totally not even look at your CV. They will just
Hmm.
ask you very, very generic questions to test a completely different side of you. So,
Yeah.
like you said, like there is no way to cater to one set of interviewers. You have to take all of this into consideration. Now, for example, like, I mean, to be honest, I'm sure a lot of you guys in this group would love to go abroad and work. Most
Yeah.
people will look for an opportunity, right? So what you have to do is, what if, like, so for example, like how Hinkson and I got this opportunity by chance way back in college. What if you're applying to an Indian firm and that firm thinks that you're best suited for a role that is now open in their company in Germany? Is your CV worth forwarding to their team in Germany? It has to be. That's why I'm saying it has to encompass all of this. It has to have an international format as well as acceptable by Indian firms. It has to be crisp, that what people would want to know, whether it is in India or abroad. So you never know where the opportunity is going to come, basically. So you really need
Hmm.
to be prepared for everything along the way. So that's why you need to make sure that you don't give too much of information about what you did in like the certificate. So that I've seen it while I've been interviewing, I've seen
Hmm.
people were attach certificates that they achieved in their second and third grades. Like
Hmm.
nobody cares about what you did, like things like handwriting competition, I got third. That's not what an interviewer is looking for. Like, who's going to look at your handwriting? So you have to be really, and one more thing, guys, you have to keep modifying your CV according to your job. So you
Yep.
can't make one amazing CV and then just forward it to 100 companies and be like, oh, I'll just wait for a call. It doesn't work. Every single time you apply for a job, you need to make sure that you read through your CV again. What changes need to be made to that CV that would suit that particular job profile? So, but to be honest, with regards to you guys, because y'all are going to be campus placements, I'm sure there is no sort of previous experience that you need to state. So y'all for now are good to have one standard CV, but you have to make sure that it is very, very crisp. Highlight your skills. Anything remotely to what would contribute to your current role, you need to highlight there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And the first question is from Malavika Sinkumar. She is from the third year civil engineering student. And the question goes like this. A common question normally put forward by the interviewer is, tell me about yourself. So how can we ace this question? What are the things that we should take in care of while answering the same? I mean, this actually implies about the self-introduction. I still remember when we used to give a self-introduction, we used to include everything, each and everything in the home. I mean, I have a pet name is that, this. So I think this is a one most important thing. So what's your take on it, Gayathri?
Sure, that's a really good question. And it's 90% of the interviewers, that's going to be the first question that they ask you. So one thing that always what all of y'all have to remember is that you need to figure out or you need to know beforehand that what is the interviewer looking for. So like I said, it all boils down to they are not worried about you. Okay, they're only worried about themselves and their company and their company's growth. So what most interviewers are trying to gain out of asking that question is that how you respond to a very unstructured question, right? Because this question has absolutely no structure. It's a very, very open-ended question. You can answer however you want to. There is no right or wrong answer to this question. So they are really gauging as to how you would answer to an unstructured question. Now, what you have to remember about this is that there is no need to go to your family background. Oh, I come from a family of 4. I was born here. This is a little about myself and things like that. That is not what they're looking for. What they are looking for is if you as a person have enough matches to match that particular role. But you can sort of, what do you say, bring in your personality to match that role. Now, for example, if I talk about that, if you're looking for a job, say in an NGO, okay, and that NGO deals with, say, vaccinating dogs or culling dogs for that matter, right? So you can sort of bring your personality where, hey, I have 2 pets at home and I really know what it's like to take care or be around dogs. And, if I can contribute to an organization that is catering to a particular sector. So that's the only sort of personal trait you can bring in. You cannot bring your family history or your personality history and then be like, that's why this is about myself. And it will have absolutely nothing about the job. And the interviewer has no clue why you have answered that because it doesn't help him make a decision. So you have to remember that every question that they are asking you is for them to make a decision about hiring you or no. So you have to somehow tie all your answers to that particular role. And you have to this is where you need to showcase your strengths. So you need to say that, back in school or back in college, every time there was a project, I used to be the one who did the numerical aspect of it. And I really enjoyed doing it. And this particular role requires me to deal with a lot of numbers. So for me personally, it's a huge interest. So now that guy knows that you've been historically dealing with numbers and you've enjoyed doing it. So you might be a better fit for this role. But never ever bring that, like I've contributed this, I've contributed that, I've done this is about myself. And like, and so what? So the interviewer is going to think like, yeah, so what should I do with all this? That's what's going to run through his head. So you have to make sure that everything you say, and you have to practice for this question, guys. You can't just go there and just talk very randomly because this is a question that most interviewers will ask you. So you need to structure your question. So if you want, like, you can just even mention very lightly, like, suppose, you were born in Kerala and you did your education throughout in Kerala, you can mention that as just one single line, saying that I was born here and this is where I did my education. That's it. That should just be your personal thing. And then you have to be like, when I was going through the company portal or your company's websites, I saw that y'all are interested in this particular aspect. Actually, back in the past, I've done so much work around this particular field. So, it really caught me that your company is also one that promotes such an organization. So that's when the interviewer is sure that, okay, this person has already an existing interest for that, so it's easier to capture this person's interest. And that's when the interviewer feels like, okay, maybe this person is a good fit for the firm. So always remember, don't bring in personal aspects to it unless it is tied back to the role. You have to tie back your personal qualities to the role.
All right. So answer to the point. And the next question is from Alvin Davis from Mechanical Engineering Department. The question is, how important is flexibility when deciding a career? On one hand, it is important to have a clean and clear goal and to work towards it. But on the other hand, it's important to have a contingency plan, just in case things don't work out. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, so that is a proper definition about life, Alfred.
Yeah.
Like, that's what life is, right? Like, you will have multiple plans and goals, but more often than not, life throws a lot of cannons at you, and you really have to learn to sort of weight that. But yes, definitely people with goals and ambitions will stand out. There is no doubt about it. So you can't be this way or that way, right? So you can't be a very reactive person to life. Like, let them throw and that I'll see what I have to do. You can't do that. Neither can you be a person where, I want only this. No matter what life throws, I don't care about what people go through. I just want this.
Okay.
So you can't be that way. So what you have to do is, obviously, the best way to start off is to have a goal. So like I mentioned before, never have like a super long-term goal, right? Don't be like, 10 years and this is what my plan is. I'm not going to deviate from this. So what you have to do is, I'll see about my immediate next 1 year. In the next 1 year, I would like to do, gain these many skills. And, so you can say, my ultimate goal is to say, join a company like Google or, I don't know, Apple or Microsoft or whatever the biggest companies in your field would be. But, if you're going to be like, no, my first job and then Google work till I get into Google, I'm not going to do anything. Like, that's not going to work. So what you have to do is, you look at your dream company, you look at your dream role, you see what it takes for you to get there. And then you spend the next how many ever years it takes for you to develop those, so that ultimately you're still achieving your goal. Maybe in the midterm, you might not be, but what you're doing is you're working towards that. And that is the most important, right? So the next 1 year, I'm going to do this. Then year after that, I'm going to focus on something else. So by 5 years, you have already done whatever you want for your ultimate ambition and goal. So and in the meantime, and while you're preparing for it, I'm sure there'll be a lot of issues. There will be personal issues. There will be professional setbacks. There will be issues of like, you were better, but your colleague got promoted up, or, you get deep. But it's fine. Your goal is not promotion. Your goal is getting into Google or my Apple. So that's fine. You need to work. You need to make sure that you are growing as a person, both professionally and personally and career-wise. That's all. There is no company, everyone, I'm telling you this out of experience, there is no company that there are no politics, where everything is fair and everything is everybody is treated the same. Nothing of that sort happens. All you can do is focus on yourself, have a goal, and work around your existing time and the period that you have in order to achieve your goal.
All right.
I'm not sure, Alvin, if that answered your question, but I hope it did.
Since Alvin has mentioned about this contingency plan, I just want to ask one more thing, because during the interviews, if a particular candidate has on his mind, he has an plan for higher studies in UK or somewhere abroad India, and he is in the final round of interview. So what should be his stand? I mean, whether he has to be very genuinely say that I have an, in a long-term goal is higher education, or stick on to that particular company. What should be, how to balance it?
Okay. So let me ask you this. Let me answer this question with a question. What
Yeah.
is why are you studying? Is it just to have a degree or is it to enjoy your career or your life, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go into a company saying that, oh, ഞാൻ എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും ഒരു 2 വർഷം I'll work here and then I'm going to study, like, but what is your ultimate goal? You're going to study and then again look for a job, correct?
Yep.
Like, that is going to be your ultimate goal. It's not like you're going to study through your entire life. So
Mm-hmm.
what I would put, and I'm like, because I'm a huge advocate of being honest, I would somewhere put it in my final round of interviews saying that, I had plans, this is my current plan, but obviously if this company and this role gives me everything that I'm looking for out of the job and out of a personal growth perspective, then I'm okay to put it off. But currently, right now, where my mind is at, because you haven't started working yet, right? It's just an
Mm-hmm.
interview phase. So you
Yep.
still don't know what the job has in hold for you, right? So you need to
Mm-hmm.
tell them that right now, I think that, 2 years or 3 years down the line, I'm going to look for masters.
Mm-hmm.
But I have these certain goals and ambitions I need from the company. And if I feel that, the company's requirements and the role meets my goals, then I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's what you're ultimately working for growth.
Yeah. True.
So,
True.
you tell them this, that, this is my thing. And and obviously you also need to make, so you can't, like I said, you can't make the interview about yourself. Okay. You can't just be
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to grow. I want this. So if I get this, I'll work. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to also pitch it back saying that if I'm also able to add value to your company and your mission, and vice
Mm-hmm.
versa, I'm also going to meet my personal goals, then I don't see a necessity to study. So now what the interviewer knows is that you have this plan, but he is also obliged to give you whatever it takes to keep you in the firm. And that's the best place to be in.
All right. So answer to that question. And next is from Mishana Mohammed. She's a third year computer science student. And she has
Hi,
commented as,
Mishana.
yeah, hello, ma'am. Great session. Thank you. And the question goes like this. How do we know that this is the one company for me to grow so that we don't go for 10 plus interviews? And what is more important, platform to learn and grow or the remuneration for a fresh graduate? Yeah.
So how you will know is, one, you might never know, but you can
Mhm.
get close to knowing by, like, say, for example, tomorrow Accenture is coming or Wipro is coming to your, and it's not even like you'll know
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'm pretty sure the college will tell you 1 week in advance or give you the dates saying that these days, these particular companies are coming to recruit. So what you
Exactly.
do is you go to their website, you have to
Hmm.
read everything about that company. Okay, like you need to
Hmm.
know what they do, what are the products that they specialize in, what is their culture, what is how do their even photos, like, every company on their portal will have photos of their employees, a couple of clips of their employees talking,
Yep.
how whether they are a diverse culture and things like that. So that is very important because that's what will make you know a little more about the company and see if you can connect with the company, because there are a lot of companies that focus on say serving the society or helping out poor people. And if you're somebody who believes in that, like who really believes in making your country or your city a much more developed place, you might connect with that company. But somebody who's
Hmm.
very driven by, like, say, numbers and revenue and things like that, there might be companies that whose major focus is on that and maybe not so much of corporate social responsibility, right? So you need to figure out what you connect with more. But
Hmm.
that being said, you might connect with something, you might join that company and then realize, oh no, this is not my thing, and that's fine. Like, people
Hmm.
figure things out in, like, during the course of their life, right? So you will
Yep.
never get everything right the first time.
Hmm.
And that brings me to the whole compensation part of it. So compensation is very, very important. It's probably the most important thing when you do a job, right? 99% of the
True.
people work for the money.
Money.
Money is the biggest motivator to do the job and things like that. But
Hmm.
also everybody knows that money is not. So for example, I worked in a very, very what do you say, one of the highly paid companies in my field, right? Goldman Sachs is known for to be a great paymaster, but I had to compromise a lot for that money, right?
Yep.
I had to compromise. I had to work 16 to 17 hours every day. I had to put in I had no I used to not sleep for more than 4 to 5 hours on most days. And I used to spend my entire weekends sleeping.
I still
So
remember
it
during our
depends on what.
internship. Yeah, I still remember during our internship days also we used to log in by 1 o'clock and log out by something around 3, 4 in the morning. So it's like
Yeah, and that was my life for 7 years, everyone. But I
yeah,
sure did get paid very well.
yeah,
But the issue is that it depends on what your priorities are. The only reason I chose to do that was because I was not married. I didn't have any children. So I thought that was my age to do it.
yeah.
So I thought that was the age where I could get that stress. But then I got married. I worked there for I think about 8 months to 1 year more, and then I told them that this is not my priority anymore. My personal life has changed.
Yep.
So although I would like the money, I can't compromise on my other life because I was not able to sort of spend time with my husband and my family, because weekends I would spend sleeping, and it's not a very pleasant experience. But yes, I can tell people that ഞാൻ ഭയങ്കരമായിട്ട് പൈസ earn ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട് അങ്ങനെ ഇങ്ങനെ and all, but then that's not the end all of everything, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the money. So you have to really draw a balance, and you have to ask yourself, like, at this point in life, like, what do I need? Like, is it money? Is it so there is this whole saying that, does money really give you happiness or it doesn't? It is not a direct comparison at all, because each person needs to know what derives happiness for them.
True.
If it is meeting friends, or if it is meeting being with your parents, or whatever it is, and that you're not going to get if you're going to work 20 hours a day but you have a lot of money. Like, what is your real aspect, or what is your real point in working? The only reason I stuck on in spite of it is because for me it gave me a kick that I was working for the best company in the world, and I was very proud of it. So for me, money was the second factor. I think it was more of like, working for the best organization, trying to learn as much as I can. So I didn't mind putting in those hours. But at the end of the day, you have to really check with yourself if it is worth compromising your health and your personal life for the money that you're getting. So always, and whenever you do, so I'm sure in a couple of interviews, they will ask, what are your salary expectations? Never ever quote one figure. It's a huge advice that I'm giving you as an interviewer. It is a total turn off. Never be like, oh, I want 8 lakhs. If you give me 8 lakhs, I'll work.
Yeah.
Never do that. Like, that is not the right way to do it. You have to, even for this, you have to research. So if you're applying for a developer role in an IT firm, you need to figure, and there are so many sites and websites that give you how the range for each post nowadays, right? It's not like before where you just try your luck and you say, I want this much. There are so many websites, so many salary calculators that give you the amount or range that each person should earn at a particular post, and with so much experience. For a fresher it is so much, for a person with 2 years experience it is so much, so on and so forth. So you need to do research as to where you stand, and always give the interviewer a range, that I would like something between, say, 6 lakhs and 10 lakhs, or 10 lakhs and 15 lakhs, depending on the research you have done. Never quote an outright figure. It is a very, very huge turnoff for any hiring manager.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that answer the question? I think that was the question,
Yes,
right?
Yes, Gayatri. So moving to the next one, we have 2 more questions. The first one is, has online interview, this is from Malavika Vishwanath from Electronics and Communication Department, and has online interviews made things easier or complex in understanding the candidate skills? And is this advantageous to students? So yeah.
Okay, that's a really good question. I myself interviewed with Morgan Stanley. I had about 8 rounds of interview, all virtual. I didn't have a single interview that I had to do in person. The advantage is that what I would say is, if you're someone who has a weakness or nervousness about meeting someone in person, that is totally negated with an online interview session, right? You're a little more like, you're at your house, the dynamics of your area where you're sitting. So that makes a little bit of, and adds to a comfort factor. But the disadvantage is obviously the personal connect or the personal feel, like tying back to my experience of how this whole interview process is connected to an arranged marriage situation, right? Would you prefer knowing a person over the phone and decide to get married, or would you prefer meeting the person before you decide to get married. I'm sure there's not a single person who would agree to the phone situation, right? You would really like to meet the person. So that obviously is a disadvantage when it comes to work, where the interviewer and the interviewee doesn't have that advantage of feeling that personal connect. But when you compare it to a marriage situation, since the work is a little more professional and formal, what you need to do is you have to go that extra mile to showcase your talents and your qualifications and prove to them with that much more effort that you're fit for the job.
Okay.
Because you don't have that whole touch and feel of the person to figure out, whether they like you or whether they didn't like you. You can't feel the body language as much. But what you have to do is you have one advantage that you're more comfortable at where you are at your own house. But the disadvantage that is you have to put in that much more effort to prove to them that you're the perfect match for that role.
Yep.
Which means more research, which means more of rehearsing your answers, which means more of practicing what you're going to say to what question, which weakness you're going to pick, which strength you're going to pick. How. So you have to basically practice your answers, and you have to say it out loud in your house. You have to go to your room and you have to practice these answers until your interview, saying that if they ask me this is what I'm going to say. If they ask me this, and you have to really practice it. Like you have to say it, maybe look at a mirror and say it with that much more expression, and the pace at which you talk and all of that, you have to really do if you're doing an online interview.
All right. So Gayathri, with that, moving to the last question, and this is from Thomas Sibi from third year Computer Science and Engineering course. The question is, why should we hire you? This is one of the most commonly heard questions. Should my answer be about my strength which suit the company or something else which they will buy into?
Yeah. So why should we hire you? Why do you want to work in our company? These are all questions that linger around the same sort of response and the same intent with which they are asking. So prime importance. I know I'm going on repeating the same thing. Always make it about them. Never make it about you. Okay. So one, it is very important to research on the company that you're applying for. Like I said, go to their website. And, now there are portals like LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is such a great platform to figure out what the company is up to, what the employees in the company are going through and things like that. So you have to research that, and you have to tell them that, hey, I was seeing the corporate video on YouTube, and looks like you guys focus on this particular thing. And that's something that really drew my interest into your company. And I'd really like to contribute to that because I'm a person also who likes that. And you have to tie back all your interests to their company. That is the key goal here. Like you have to be like, and you can't make it about yourself always, okay? And you have to obviously talk about your qualifications, and you have to be like, to become, say, I think in your engineering field, there's a lot of developer and coder and, I don't know, data architects and things like that. So you need to read up separately on that. What are the skills that a coder requires? Okay. And then just be like, I've learned this much, but unfortunately, I only know the basics of this particular software. But I think because your company and this role requires this particular software a lot, and because this interests me, I'd like to join a firm that would expose me to this particular software a lot more. And that's why I want to join, because, this role uses a lot of that particular software and things like that. And you should never, ever start a sentence with, I want. Although you want the job, which is the truth, unfortunately, no interviewer is ever impressed about when you say, I want this out of the company. That's why I want to join. Like your company is, focuses on this, and I want this, so I want to join the company. That's not how you say it. You have to always be a little more subtle about expressing yourself, and you have to always make sure that you relay all your information interests in the best possible way, tying it back to what the company really stands for and what the company really is looking out of you. And you have to also see if you're and you have to bring out things like if you're a cultural fit. Some people, some companies are very, very diverse culturally, right? Like, for example, the company I worked for promoted the LGBT part of human beings a lot more. And there are so many people who are not comfortable with such a situation. There are so many people who don't like to work with people who are bisexual or transgender. But if you're somebody who really wants to promote that, you need to bring that about when you tell them that, hey, I like the fact that your company promotes diversity so much, because there are very few companies who do that. And I really appreciate that your company stands for this mission. So those kind of things you have to tie back, and then you can tie it back to some project or some internship that you did during your college days, saying that when I interned here, I got this experience, and that really interested me in this particular field, and your company does that. So everything you have to make it about them and embed your interests into that. That's very, very important.
All right. And we have one more question which has already been answered, I guess, because it was related to how you want to see yourself down to 5 years. Those kind of questions. Like, wait.
Yeah, I think I answered that, right?
I think, yeah, you have answered it. In interview, it's important. Yeah. So I think it's already answered. So it's almost the time, because I have asked for 1 hour, and we had some technical glitch.
I just have one more last advice or tip, which I feel is very, very important.
Go ahead.
So there is one question that is definitely going to be asked by every hiring manager. I ask them myself is, do you have any questions for me? That is what every interviewer, every interviewer is going to ask you that. And please, never ever say no. Everything is clear and I don't have any questions. It's a very, very, it's an outright judgmental question by the interviewer or the hiring manager. When they ask you, do you have any questions for me? You always have to have a couple of questions ready to ask the interviewer. Never say no, because if you say no, that's outright not getting the job. I can give it to you in writing, because one, it shows that you are not interested. You were not a keen listener. You were not eager to, because you won't know everything about the company and the culture and the role and the department and team, everything in half an hour. That is not virtually possible. So you will always have questions, is the assumption of the interviewer. So when the interviewer asks you that question, always have. So again, you have to prepare this beforehand. Before you go for the interview, you need to have a couple of questions that you have already prepared for to ask them. It can be anything. So what I would suggest is you have to have 2 to 3 questions. One question needs to be about your role. You can ask them, so from your experience, like, what are the challenges of this role? Like, I get that this role has a lot of positives, but what do you think are the difficulties in performing this role? You can ask them to the interviewer. And one most important thing, what most interviewers, like we as human beings, are very, very proud of who we are as people. So when you ask a senior person, so obviously most of these interviewers are senior guys, right? So when you ask them, can you talk about how you reached this high in your career? What was your experience? What was your takeaway? What was your learning? And things like that is, like, I have noticed that it pleases the interviewers so much that they are given a chance to talk about themselves and their career and their journey. So always remember that when you are asked that question, always have a couple of questions handy that you can ask them, and always say yes, because it really shows that, you're so eager to join that team. You're so eager to join the company. And it shows that you were listening all throughout. It's only if you listen, you will have doubts, right? If you're sitting in a class and the teacher is going on lecturing and you are not paying attention, you're not going to have any doubts. That's for sure. Because you don't even know what was taught in the class. Same with an interview. Only if you listen and you were curious about things will you have doubts. And that's what the interviewer will interpret. The interviewer will be like, oh, this guy was listening, which means he was listening, because that's why he has so many questions. So always remember that you have to say yes when you are asked if you have any questions or if you want to know more or things like that. Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to bring up.
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot. If any participant want to make any comments or something, you can unmute yourself and convey the same thing now. Anybody want to? I think I have a message. Let me check that. Wait.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Alvin Davis, and
hey, Alvin.
Thank you for your response to my question. So I had attended a webinar a few months back with a personality from IEEE, and he said that flexibility is what changed his career. For example, he's currently 60 plus years old, and
Okay.
he wanted to work with a particular field, but nothing worked out for him.
Mm-hmm.
And but he had a contingency plan, and so he worked on that, and that's where he became successful, and he became an expert in that field. So that is what I wanted to ask you actually. Like, should we
Yeah, so
focus
like I
on two
said,
things
the
at the same
person
time?
you spoke to, you mentioned that he did something and he figured out that it wasn't working for him, right? So that's
No,
something he did.
that field experienced a sudden crisis or something like that,
Huh. Yeah.
and
So
he was
then, so
forced
he
to change it.
figured that yeah. So he figured that for whatever reason, it could be a personal growth reason. It could be, for example, you look at the current situation. If you're saying that you want to work in the travel industry and you go out looking for a job during this COVID times, do you really think you will be successful? Because the travel industry is totally bust now, right? Nobody can travel anywhere. Everything is put to a halt. Tourism has completely stopped. But if you go on saying that, my passion is in tourism and I want to make sure people see the world and all that, it's not going to work. So at that point in time, you have to change field. So whether it is a personal growth perspective, or if it is the environmental factors, or whether your particular industry is in crisis now, for whatever reason, you will have to change it. But what I'm saying is this: in my particular example, it's not like COVID is going to stay here for the next 100 years, right? So it can, in 2-3 years, it might go. So if your passion was truly, say, travel and tourism, you can get back to it after 3 years. But in the 3 years, you can't crib about saying that, like, oh no, this was my passion. Now I'm forced to change it because it was not working out. Yes. But in the meantime, you can do other stuff that will aid you to get to your goal, is what I meant. In the meantime, the next 2-3 years, when the market or the environment is not in your favor, you work towards your goal. Because if this person, whoever you're referring to, is, for example, was forced to shift into a job or a field that he was not interested in, and he's going to live the rest of his life in that. So for him, luckily, he claims that he is successful, but there will be so many other people who changed fields and then realized that, oh my god, what a big mistake did I make. So that my main point is, you need to self introspect at every regular interval, say, thinking and asking yourself if this is working for you or no. If it is not working, you try something else, and that also might not work, and you might then realize that what you did before only was better than this.
Mhm.
So the point is that you have to keep asking yourself and checking on yourself, irrespective of what is happening around you, whether it is personally, professionally, or crisis and environment, markets. There are so many things that influence a boom or a boon in the market, right? So you can't, like, just gauge it to like one particular thing. Sorry, Alvin, does that answer your question? Because mine
Yeah,
was
yes,
more around
ma'am.
self-introspection. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it did.
All right. So, any other questions or comments from the participants, or if not, we can
Hello,
actually.
hello, sir.
Yeah.
Am I
Go ahead.
audible?
Yes.
Yes. Hi,
Hello, ma'am.
Mishana.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for answering my question. So I wanted to say, I wanted to tell you that it was such a great session. We were just saying that, 1 hour wasn't enough. We need more time with you. The way you answer the questions, how clear you were about it, and experience you have, it was very enlightening. And I myself, and I was just talking with my friends. They were like, we got many new insights, and many new things that we didn't know about till now. We had some other misconceptions about it, and you have cleared it so well. So I hope that we get to have more sessions with you. And thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Mishana. That's very, very kind of you. And
And I
I'm
just
more than
want to.
happy to have another
No,
session. If
Gayatri,
you
wait, wait,
really
wait, wait.
think that 1 hour was not enough, I'm more than happy to, like, have another session. I can, Hingston, I can get in touch with him, because I would really love to help you guys. So if it's really required, I definitely wouldn't mind. You can reach out to me personally. Like, I'm available on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
All
That
right.
is so kind of you. Thank you.
And I just want to add one more thing, because Gayatri, you have changed a lot, I guess. Because we used to meet up like in Cochin, where whenever you come down to Cochin, we used to have a hangout and all those things. But when we were in 2013 Loyola College, hope you remember, you actually used to teach me the mathematical papers, econometrics, macroeconomic models, and all those things.
Yep.
And the kind of change, I can't believe it actually. the way in which you have changed, the way in which GS have, Goldman Sachs has changed you, it's unbelievable. I think that it's all, these are all the takeaways from GS, I think, the way in which you speak, the modulation, all those things. So it's like, thanks to GS. And for that,
definitely. Like I said, like I attribute a lot of my changes to the company I worked in. Although I had to put in a lot, risk a lot, I couldn't attend any of my family functions. I couldn't meet any of my friends because my working hours were such. People would get done with work at 6 o'clock and they'll be like, "Ba, namke dinner na poam." And I would have to say no because I'm working till midnight, right? And so those were the sacrifices I had to make. But then I had to tell myself that I want to grow personally. Like my priority was this. So basically you have to prioritize what you want in life, and you will definitely get if you aim for what you want.
All right. So that was a great session, and our principal Dr. Sajeev John sir and a placement officer Roshan David sir has already commented on your session, and principal sir has commented as like wonderful session, and Roshan sir has commented as research and practice. That is a takeaway from this particular session, and a lot of students are commenting like it was a wonderful and a splendid session. So once again, formally, I would like to take this opportunity to express a sincere gratitude on behalf of Christ College of Engineering towards Ms. Gayathri Unnikrishnan for sparing her valuable time with us for enlightening and enriching our students on the topic how to ace the interview. And as Ms. Shana has mentioned, we can actually bring Gayathri to our campus if possible after this corona issues, and if she comes down to Kochi for some function, I must say for functions, because rarely she used to visit Cochin, and our most common meeting point is I forgot the cafe. Where is it?
Cocoa-tree.
Cocoa-tree, yes. MG Road Cocoa-tree. So yeah, let's meet up there and let's plan for a day for Christ College of Engineering students. So thanks a lot.
For sure. Thanks a lot, all of y'all. Like it was a great pleasure for me that, I'm able to use my skills and my story to inspire, or at least try to inspire. That's been like my life mission as well. If I can inspire at least one person to succeed in their lives, I think I would consider myself very, very successful and content with my life. So like I said, please reach out to me whenever y'all want to know anything. Even for that matter, if you want to practice some of your answers with me to see how it goes, I can help you out with that. Whatever it is, anything to do with this field, I can definitely help. Unfortunately, I'm not from the engineering field, so maybe that technical bit alone, I might not be able to help as much, but in terms of how to answer them, I can definitely help you all. So please do reach out to me. I'm very, very happy to help any of y'all. And Hingston, I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. And I'm really, really glad that in times like COVID, like we're using our contacts and our friendships and the relationships that we've maintained over so many years to benefit so many people, right? Like that is such a great thing. And I think it's one good thing that COVID has really taught us. No matter where you are in the world, you can still help through virtual. Like I don't think we used this platform as much ever before. Like, we would still restrict people to like, Arka Elapam Vera, and we'll call them. But at least now you try and get people wherever they are in the world just to sort of display their skills. So that's a really, really great thing. Thank you all so much. It was a great pleasure talking to all of y'all. I'm wishing you all the very best. Don't get disheartened with the markets being down with COVID and things like that. Don't ever think that, our chances are very less or very great. Trust me, if the world has to go on, there has to be jobs. If the world has to go on, people still have to perform. The question is, if you are able to cut that sort of stereotype and stand out, that's where it all lies. So
all right.
Don't get disheartened. Continue putting in the hard work. Do all the necessary research, and you guys will definitely succeed.
Thank you, Gayathri. Thank you once again. Thanks a lot for your time. And as I rightly mentioned, I want to bring you back to Christ College of Engineering one day after this all corona issues getting resolved. So convey my regards to Abhijit. Is working from home?
Yes, I will do that.
No, is he?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So have great time. So go explore Europe. That's what the main aim of being in Netherlands. All right. So thanks a lot once again. So guys, students, kindly note the feedback forms are already in the chat box. So do kindly fill the feedback form, and we'll be get back with more energetic and enriching sessions as a part of your placement cell. So once again, on behalf of Placement Cell of Price College of Engineering, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Gayathri. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. So students, you can exit the meeting. The meeting got over. Thank you.